Hello, welcome. Good evening if you're in the UK. Well, good evening if you're in Australia. Good morning if you're in the UK.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Gary. Welcome to this show. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning, Karen, and thank you for inviting me. It's a lovely to
Yes,
finally get to talk to you.
yes, absolutely. So my guest today on the Health Practitioner Business Success Show is Garry Coles. And Gary is in the UK this morning. It's about 8:30 in the morning in the UK, 6:30 here on the sunny coast in Queensland, Australia. So I've had my day already, but Gary's got his to look forward to.
Yeah, beautiful and grey here.
Miserable and grey, yeah. You've got some bright light, which is a cool thing in the UK for sure. So today we're talking business success, and this show is about featuring some talented business owners that have been in this field. They work in the field, been in the field, in the industry for a while, and they've done some great things in their business. They've made a great success of it. Now, certainly the statistics in Australia is that within 3 years, over a third of 2/3 of businesses will fail within their third year. So the statistics are pretty stark, and it's important really for people like Garry to come and share his inspiration and his skills to keep. There's thousands of people in his industry, in our industry. I'm also a hypnotherapist too, and there's thousands, literally thousands around the world who get off the starting blocks. Some don't get off the starting blocks, and some really do get off the starting blocks, but then it kind of goes a bit pear-shaped. So why is that? Is what we're going to talk about today. Garry is a hypnotherapist. He's a specialist in his field, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I want to find out from Garry where it all began, because you qualified back in 2005.
Yeah.
And so this, you know, I love talking about the success, but I also love talking about where people have started from, where they've come from, because that's where a lot of people are these days. They're still right at the beginning, just starting their career and thinking, oh my God, I can't make this happen. I can't do this. So we're going to start back in 2005 when Garry first qualified. What was life like for you? What did it look like for you, Garry, back in 2005 when you first started?
Well, I was actually an accidental hypnotherapist, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't something I'd ever aspired to or thought about particularly. I used to be in the IT industry, in the oil industry.
Oh, okay.
I got made redundant, and I was fortunate. I was in a position where I didn't need to work for a couple of years, and I had no idea of what I wanted to do. And I set up a web store and selling books for Christmas. And after Christmas, I thought, what do I sell now? And somebody offered me a job lot of hypnotherapy, weight loss, and quit smoking CDs. And they
Cool.
sold very well. And I thought that's quite fascinating. And I had some
Mm,
like you do as a teenager, and so
sure.
I went to get the books out and thought that's quite fascinating. And I noticed there was a local doctor of psychology doing an introductory course. And
Mm,
I thought, oh, I'll go along and have a look. And I was one of these people at the time that thought, yeah, if I can do that, I can do a little bit on the side, depending on what else
mm,
I do.
sure.
And I must admit, I went along and I was very skeptical of it. And I'm not a particularly good hypnotic subject myself. But one of the things that he did is said, well, everybody that's on my course, we have to deal with their issues, get them sorted out.
Mm.
I haven't really got any. And he said, well, you must have something. And I said, well, the only thing that I suppose is an annoyance. I used to have a lot of nightmares to the
Mhm.
extent that I'd wake up kicking, punching, shouting, whatever, several nights a
Mm,
week. But it never bothered
mm,
me because it was normal. I'd had it all my life.
sure.
And he said, oh, we're going to work on that. So we did a lot of work on it. And again, I was really skeptical because I didn't think I was in hypnosis. I couldn't visualize very well.
Mm, mm,
Nothing was really working. And he asked me at the end of all the work, how was that? And I said, well, I was just keeping my eyes shut out of respect for who you are and what you were doing. And he said, okay, we'll see how it goes. And I think it was about 3 weeks later when I realized I hadn't had any more nightmares that I thought, okay,
mm.
there's something in this. So I thought I'd go back and
Stunning.
do a basic diploma in it. So I did my basic diploma and I started to set up in business. And then everybody was saying, well, the one thing that's now difficult is getting experience. You need experience as a new hypnotherapist to get your name out there.
Yeah.
And I had a random phone call from an oncology unit at the hospital. And somebody said, oh, we've just heard you qualified as a hypnotherapist. We're using them in the oncology unit, but the one we've had's just left. We're using
Mm.
volunteers. Would you like to come in and volunteer some time? So I thought, okay, on a mercenary point of view, I'll go into the oncology unit, seeing 8 patients a day, so experience is going through the roof. And I thought, I'll go there for a few weeks, get experience, and disappear again. And now, sort of 14 years later, I'm still there.
Oh, good.
And that's tended to now be my niche area. Since then, I decided I really wanted to move the field forward. So I was one of the few people in the UK to do a master's degree in clinical hypnotherapy.
Yes.
To make things really difficult for my thesis and research, I did research into pre-surgical hypnosis and the effects in the recovery quality in breast cancer operations.
Wow.
And for that, I got embedded into the breast cancer MDT team at the hospital. And since then, the hospital have sent me on lots of specialist courses in cancer and so on.
Stunning.
And that sort of by accident, again, it took me a lot of years to realize that I'm probably an expert in that field, because I was finding more and more people
Yeah.
contacting me online from all over the world asking for advice on working with cancer patients, to the extent that I was then asked to do some conferences. And I now regularly do conferences all around the world talking on the subject, and have now put together courses which I go and lecture all around the world on the subject, because I realized that possibly, yes, I am one of the world's experts on it. And there's a lot of knowledge that people want.
Stunning. Well, that is stunning because simply you fell into it from selling a few books,
Yeah.
wondering what to do with yourself after Christmas, finding those CDs, and it all went from there. And you've not looked back since.
No?
So back then, when you first started and you was working in, because now you've got about 5 practices going on, right?
Yeah.
So how did you start? Was it just the one practice when you first started?
Yeah, I went to 2 fairly quickly. I started my first one. I started at home. I was just seeing people out of a spare room at home,
Yeah.
and just advertising, same as everybody else, on my website. That got business. Not too bad. I mean, it was slow, but yeah, that got business coming in.
Yeah.
But obviously, I was pretty good at it because I was finding I was getting referrals very quickly from previous people.
Sure.
And then I set up about 7 miles away in a multidisciplinary clinic, an osteopaths, osteopathy, nutrition, counselling, and so on. And that place had quite a good reputation. So that brought me some business in, and that moved along a little while. I also, because of my hospital work, I get a room at the hospital one evening a week, so I can see private people at the hospital. Which again, I found that being able to see people at the hospital also brought people in, because that gives you credibility. If you're working out of a hospital, you've got to have credibility, specifically if it's a
Absolutely.
hospital.
Absolutely.
Then from that, because of the work I was doing both in the hospital, and because of the work that I was doing in the clinic, local clinic, at that time I was doing my master's degree, which I found made a huge difference with the medical fraternity.
Of course.
If you wave a hypnotherapy diploma in front of them, it's quackery, they've got no idea. But if you give them a university's master's degree, that's somewhat different. So on the basis of that, I was then actually invited to go and base myself in a GP surgery. And now again, the GPs have started feeding people into me, basically ones that they have no idea what to do with, the long-term anxiety cases. So they were referring them up to me, seeing the results. So of course that again starts to snowball. And again, that also brings in a lot more clients, because again, it's the credibility. Or if you're in the GP surgery, the doctors wouldn't have you there unless you were legitimate and good. And so that sort of snowballed from there. And
So
then
doing some higher level qualifications really did help you to get involved in that kind of community where you were being basically taken seriously for being a professional rather than just being someone who's doing, this mind stuff with people and actually getting results. Because with your research, your MSc in clinical hypnotherapy, you had to do some pretty rigorous research.
Yeah.
In order, because you were doing preoperative hypnosis, weren't you, in terms of and kind of monitoring the quality of the outcomes of the surgery, weren't you?
Yeah.
Which is pretty good stuff. It's pretty awesome stuff and it speaks their language, which is pretty important.
Yeah, and what was useful, or what I found was interesting on that, it started off where a couple of the surgeons were very much for it, and a couple were quite sceptical about it, and I was just a bit of a hindrance. But
Sure.
once they got to know me through the multidisciplinary teaming, so I used to go to all the clinical meetings at that stage. So I was there when we were discussing all the case studies, because it was
Yeah.
useful to have the background for the people that I wanted to do research with.
Sure.
Um, but once we built up a relationship and they started themselves seeing some of the results and some of the feedback from their own patients, I ended up with several of the surgeons actually saying that they were quite happy to move their elective list round to accommodate me, which I thought was quite something.
Stunning.
So yeah,
That's
that was.
good.
And
That's
also one of
awesome.
the surgeons that actually, when he was a trainee surgeon, had actually attended an operation where it was done under hypnosis instead of anaesthetic. So he was already very much on board.
That's what you need. I know there is mixed blessings everywhere with the medical fraternity, and rightly so, because there isn't a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of research out there, but it's the funding's not there to do a lot of research in hypnotherapy, is it? And so,
It
and the
isn't.
motivation's not there either for a lot of practitioners to want to do it.
No, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there, really. That the research isn't there. Certainly in the UK, there's very little research. I mean, there's a lot more in the States. But the UK, there isn't, because, again, obviously the pharmaceutical industry spends lots of money on research because they're making money out of it, where
Mm,
nobody to fund hypnotherapy research because nobody's really interested. Who's going to make the money out of it? So really the only way you can do it, and particularly if you want to do medical research, I mean, I had so much aggravation with ethics committees at the hospital and the
mm,
NHS and everything else. So
sure.
really you do need good indemnity insurance, and the only way you're really going to get that behind you is to do it through a university.
Mm,
And again, yes, the other thing, unfortunately, but you mentioned about how many businesses fail. I think statistics I saw over here, and I think it's something like 4% of hypnotherapists that actually do some sort of course, a diploma or so on. So I think it's 4% that actually go on to make a full-time living out of it. And,
mm.
and you see a new one. Well, certainly where I am, I think there's well over 100 hypnotherapists within a 10-mile radius of me, and there's a new one pops up every month, and I think one packs up every month.
So
And
what do you think that's about, Gary? Why are so many hypnotherapists failing? Why are they going into training, doing all that investment, and yet coming out and not going and practicing?
I think certainly the ones that I've had, because I used to do some lecturing myself, postgraduate lecturing on some of the courses, and also mentoring and so on. And it seemed to me that a lot of people seem to be doing it for self-help, to start with,
Sure,
or
sure.
improvement in themselves. A lot of them were just sort of, oh, it was another string to my bow, but I've got no intention of actually going into the industry. Um, so I'd have thought that's probably about half. Whereas a lot of other ones just go, that you've got the well-meaning ones that, oh, yes, I can help people, and that's very nice. But
Mm,
unfortunately, they're the ones that are looking really low because they, oh, I don't want to charge very much money because people can't.
mm,
In which case, they want the cheapest and quickest course they can find because they haven't got the money,
sure,
so they don't
sure.
end up with the skill set. And then you've got the other ones that just think, oh, I can get in this part time on my day off and make a lot of money. And again, they just want to do it on the cheap, or there's so many that have just learned off of YouTube or out of book.
Mm,
I see a lot of online sort of queries about, oh, where can I learn to be a hypnotherapist? Which YouTube video should I watch and things like that.
sure. Yeah.
Whereas the commitment to do 4.5 years for a master's degree is a little more serious.
Yeah, you've got to make you a bit extreme in this
Yeah,
field to want to go and do that level. But it's done good. It's done you good,
yeah,
Gary. It really
great.
has, because it's got you to where I don't think many hypnotherapists have got to, if I'm honest, if any. You are one of a kind, and you're a great champion and an ambassador, I think, for our industry in terms of what you've achieved and what you've done in your time. To say you fell into it, it's just laughable, that, isn't it? You just
Yeah,
fell into
yeah.
it, and then 13
Yeah.
years later you're still going.
But
Well,
it's good to be
18 years later you're still going.
yeah, it's good, as you say, to be an ambassador in the industry, because one of the things that I find fascinating now, as well as hypnotherapists, I find quite a big percentage of people attending my talks, my conference talks, and even my courses are actually doctors and oncology workers,
Stunning.
which is quite fascinating. The number of
Is
doctors,
that to learn about it, or is that to actually do it?
both. The
Okay,
number of doctors that approach me at conferences is quite surprising, that after
great,
all they've attended my talks. Um,
great.
so that's quite interesting. I
Mm.
know I've got I'm doing a course next year in New York, and I noticed yesterday the people that are signing up. One of the first signees for that is a doctor, um,
Great.
for that one. So yeah,
That's
so
great.
it's quite fascinating. So again, it's getting the word out there to those people.
Mm. Yes. Can I just ask though, why did you decide to study cancer? Was it just because you were already in that field
Yeah,
anyways, and you were kind of, yeah,
because I was in that field in the hospital anyway.
sure,
I've had family members sort of die through it and so on. So I've been through from the consumer end, if you want to call it
sure.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
I've been through it myself from that end.
yeah.
But because I was already in that environment, and it was an unusual environment, which
Mm,
I'd already had lots of experience in by the time I
yeah.
got up to do my masters, to me it seemed like a logical thing to do. Just
Okay.
because there was little research done in that area, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do a thesis, I want to do something meaty. So I thought I want to do something medical, and that
Mm,
seemed like an obvious thing to do because I was already in that area. I mean, the
mm,
amount of people that tried to talk me out of it, told me that I was being
mm.
stupid, was quite numerous. But I was very determined, and I did it.
Yes, good for you. Good for you. So, and not to forget to mention, you work in the prestigious Harley Street,
Yeah,
which is
that's the one
again,
that I didn't mention. Yes, but I'm there as well.
that is a superb location to have a practice, especially like you mentioned earlier, how hypnotherapists and health practitioners generally go into these caring, supportive roles and to try and make a business from it. But in the end, they don't value what they're worth. And so, or value the skills and or the investment that they've put into their work to get where they are. And so, don't feel that they can charge very much. But if you're on Harley Street and you're charging very little, I don't think people would look at that, you know, in a good way, would they? Because it's a kind of a place where they expect to pay a lot of money.
Well, the amount of money they charge you to be in Harley Street, you can't afford to charge low rates.
Correct.
Yeah,
You've got
the
to
cost
make
of
you've got to cover your overheads over there, right? Absolutely. Well, it's been stunning talking to you, and I not to forget to mention that Gary's on our team here at the Academy of Advanced Change Work. It's awesome to have him involved in the work that he does, and also, we pride on ourselves on the quality of the work that we do in our training to bring up the next generation of hypnotherapists in Australia. So thanks so much for being part of our team as well, Gary. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So you've got a lot of work going on for the rest of the year. You've got some conferences to go to next
Yeah, I'm
year.
presenting on psychoneuroimmunology is my conference piece for this year, and I'm presenting on that in London on Friday. So
Stunning. Well, good luck with that. I really do hope that goes well. And yeah, I'm sure you'll be in there for a little while to come yet. So no doubt helping a lot more patients to recover. Still helping patients to try and recover from operative surgery, or is it just generally you working with cancer
I work
patients?
through the whole journey, and the courses that I teach are to teach hypnotherapists to actually work with cancer
Yeah,
patients through the entire cancer journey. So it's everything
yeah.
from diagnosis right through to, if you like, complete remission, or sadly the palliative end of life care. So it's everything in
Sure.
between. So yes, pre and post, excuse me, pre and post operative comes into that category. Fears and
Sure.
phobias, pain control, pretty much everything.
A lot of anxiety, a lot of confidence stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, absolutely. Oh, well, you're doing some great work. You
Thank
certainly are. You're, like I say, you're a great ambassador for our industry, and I'm loving what you're doing for sure.
thank you.
You should be very proud of yourself for what you've achieved. It's awesome. So, where can people find you, Gary, in terms of getting to one of your conferences or workshop seminars? How do people get a hold of you?
Right, probably the best place to go is that my website is being redone at the moment, and I don't know how long that'll take. So probably my
Okay.
Facebook group is the best one to go to, which is Release Hypnotherapy is my
Release.
Facebook page. Yeah, Release Hypnotherapy is my business, and certainly as far as conferences and courses are concerned, as mentioned, I'll be at the UK one in London this weekend. I'm going to be in HypnoBiz in New York in May next year, where I will be talking and also running a cancer course.
Great.
I should be running a cancer course in the UK also in May in Birmingham. And I will be talking, but I'm not sure what on yet, or whether I'm doing another course as well at HT-Live in Las Vegas next August.
Well,
So,
hey, go Garry, go Garry. That's stunning. Thanks so much for joining us, Garry. I wish you well today. Hope you have an awesome day, whatever you get up to. And no doubt we'll be speaking very, very soon.
yeah, thanks very much for inviting me, Karen. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, what can I say? This show is full of talented people. It really is. And, Garry is a great ambassador for this field. This show covers all kinds of health practitioners, but of course, I'm biased in that I'm a hypnotherapist, and I love to share what other hypnotherapists are doing when they're doing some good quality stuff. So, yes, I will be in touch again with more people on this show. If you want to check in for more videos, etc., you can come over to my Health Practitioner Business Success group on Facebook, and you'll see more interviews, content, etc. on there, and find ways to get hold of me. Until then, have a great day, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.